Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Really glad to have this young lady back. She's running for U.S. Senate out of the great state of Alaska. It's Kelly Tshibaka. Kelly, how are you?
So fantastic. Thanks for having me.
You are fantastic. Really good to have you back on the program. And it's so timely because we're looking at something that they just called an infrastructure bill in Washington, D.C. that has, I think, 14 or 16% infrastructure. 84 or 86% is non-infrastructure. And guess who voted yes on the Republican side, along with 18 other rhinos? Lisa Murkowski, who is now, Kelly, I find her to be very reliable when it comes to a close vote. She's always going to go the wrong way. Are you seeing it the same way?
That's how all Alaskans see it. And Joe, when my mom was raising me, she said, if you call it one thing and it's something else, that's called a lie. This is not infrastructure. This is climate resilience, Green New Deal, or the corporate bailout bill. But if you call it that, then it doesn't look so good for the senators to vote for it. But we just need to call it what it is. That's what this is loaded with. You know, they seek to banish carbon from the economy in this bill. That means that working Americans are going to be paying more. They're going to put tens of billions of dollars into a new Office of Green Energy, and the Department of Energy will be paying for that. They're going to be subsidizing companies that deal with green energy, but they can't sustain on their own in the market. Subsidizing means federal government will be paying for it. That means that you and I will be paying for those companies that can't sustain on their own, and we'll be making up for it when we pay for those companies that are going to have to go out with carbon. So we're going to be paying for it on both sides. Remember when they promised us that there would be no new taxes for people in middle class and lower class? False. That's what this bill is. It's all a big lie, and it's going to be hitting our pockets really badly.
It's Kelly Tshibaka, kelly4ak.com, KELLYFORAK.com. You know, I see this bill, if you were to name it correctly, in a perspective from your great state, it's the anti-Alaska bill. And here's why I say that. You've got a bill that's going to start charging people per mile taxing if they drive down the road and they're driving a car that's powered by the stuff you guys have a lot of in Alaska. Your economy is run on energy. Oil is good because obviously we're asking OPEC to produce more. It's just not good if it's our oil. How does Murkowski, you think, not know she's from Alaska? Because, I mean, she literally just did something that I think that the people of Alaska should be very angry about.
Lisa Murkowski has become a DC insider, and everyone across America can see it, but Alaskans know it in our hearts and our soul, because we used to be a resource state, Joe, but right now those resources have been shut down. And Joe Biden is pursuing this energy annihilating anti-America agenda, and he's directed a full-on assault against Alaska's energy production and our domestic energy production. You're absolutely right. He's created this oil crisis, and now his solution is to go to countries like Iran, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia and ask them for more oil to solve the crisis he's created, giving them more power, more money, and more jobs. And so we're going to help their economy. We're going to hurt our national security, and we're ultimately going to hurt our environment in this just surprising display of hypocrisy from the Biden administration. We all know up here in Alaska that we produce energy far cleaner and greener than any of those OPEC countries do. But the person leading this charge is the Department of Interior Secretary Deb Haaland. And we all know that the person who decided the deciding vote for her confirmation was Senator Lisa Murkowski. So here in Alaska, the one complicit in this Joe Biden agenda is Senator Murkowski, leading the charge against Alaska, hurting our national security, our environment, and our economy.
It's Kelly Tshibaka, kelly4ak.com, running for U.S. Senate of the great state of Alaska against Lisa Murkowski, she just has to go. That picture was so telling, where Dianne Feinstein has her pinned against the wall and is telling her the way it's going to be. I mean, I don't know what she has on her, but Murkowski, as you said, is a Washington, D.C. insider, clearly. But last time you were on, you explained something to me that I wasn't privy to, that she's been, I guess, people have been primarying her for a while and trying to get her out for a while, but somehow she still gets the vote. How does that happen? Let's say you primary her, which you're going to, and I think you're going to win. You're doing very well. We'll get into the campaign and how well you're doing in a moment. But she's still going to be on the ballot somehow, and people can still vote her in. How did she still get in last time, even though we thought that she was done?
So there's this famous write-off election that she won back in 2010.
Right.
And there's lots of reasons why that happened, but the simple answer for this time is there's no ability to do a write-off election because we've changed our election system in Alaska.
Good.
and we don't have a party primary anymore. And the Republican Party in Alaska has officially censured Lisa Murkowski now and said she cannot use the Republican name in her election. And then they've officially endorsed me, which functionally makes me the primary candidate in Alaska. This is great news because in Alaska, in statewide races, we almost always vote Republican. We voted for Donald Trump twice, and he won by double digits. And we have another Republican senator. Our Republican congressman has been in since the days of Nixon. I'm not exaggerating.
Right.
And we have a Republican
Crazy.
governor. And so this bodes really well for my candidacy right now. I'm leading Lisa in the polls by 20 points, and we're only 4 months into the campaign.
And still, she's not smart enough, politically speaking, to at least do the bidding of the Alaskan people to say, hey, I'm losing by 20. If I want to keep my job, I better do something different. It's so strange to me. I don't understand why she's like this, but thank God there's somebody like you. It's Kelly Tshibaka, Kelly4AK.com. You got the endorsement from former President Trump. Tell me about how that came about and how important is that for you?
You know, that is so critical and important here in Alaska because we've never had a president do so much for our state than President Trump. His policies were excellent for us. We've worked 6 decades to open up exploration and drilling in Anwar, which is our North Slope oil production area. And it was only with President Trump that we were able to do that. Of course, on day 1 of the Biden administration, thanks to Lisa Murkowski, they shut it all down.
Right.
But we are all aware, and I could go on and on, his support for the military, his support for timbering in the Tongass. We just had so much help with him for our economy and the people that we support here in Alaska. And so that's why he won our state twice by double digits. And having his endorsement is really critical in this election. Lisa Murkowski's never had to run for U.S. Senate following President Trump, and her true colors really came out where she got in the way of so many of his legislative priorities, so many of his nominees, and yet we see her standing by the radical Biden administration and its assault on Alaska in their nominees and in their priorities. I mean, just look at these 2 bills, these spending bills coming forward, and how we have to act today to protect tomorrow. We understand that with the environment. We conservatives understand that with respect to the economy, and the Biden administration has no regard for tomorrow, and Lisa's helping that. She's selling out our future, so our great-grandchildren tomorrow will be paying for government today. We don't like that here in Alaska. We don't have any way to pay for Lisa's popularity in Washington, D.C. because our entire economy is shut down. And so all of that's coming out in true colors, and Alaska's done with it. Joe, Republicans from moderates to conservatives, she only has a 6% approval rating, and we are a majority of Republicans in the state of Alaska. So Donald Trump's endorsement means a lot up here, and it's going to go a long way to winning this race.
It's Kelly Tshibaka. Go follow her, KELLYFORAK.com. That's her website. She's the Republican running for U.S. Senate against Lisa Murkowski, or for Lisa Murkowski's seat in 2022. I don't know that much about Alaska. I'm on 3 stations in Alaska, so we've got great coverage there, but I've never been. Obviously, it's far away from the contiguous United States, but I wonder if progressivism is making its way up there. I wonder if you're insulated from that. Fill me in if you don't mind. Are you seeing CRT show up in schools? Are you seeing BLM or Antifa? Are you hearing radical Green Deal idiots showing up in your state? Or are you insulated from all that right now?
So in Alaska, we are largely libertarian. No matter how we identify politically, we have just a really strong independent spirit and streak. And there's also a real culture and value of diversity and unity. We just always have been that way.
Yeah.
We love each other. We love our values. There are some school districts, especially here in Anchorage, the largest city, that are pushing CRT, but it is not uniformly popular. Anchorage is about a 50-50 split of people who lean to the right and people who lean to the left. And then there's a large section, of course, people in the middle. And so CRT is not widely embraced. It's partially embraced, and I'm not sure how much it's going to spread. And as of, for instance, you know, my family, we're mixed. I'm the only pale person in my family. I have 5 Black children and a Black husband.
Nice.
And my daughter wrote a really compelling address to the school board where she said, so what am I supposed to do? Sit on both sides of the classroom? I think that you've forgotten that our society doesn't divide into black and white anymore. Many of us are mixed. And this whole CRT, we call it cynical race theory in our home.
Nice.
It really overlooks a huge number of people in our culture who really embraced what Martin Luther King Jr. said. It's about character and not color. And we've become a mixed race society, and we don't really fall into this narrative of oppressed and oppressor. And we really have decided that those are individual decisions, and we get to choose the story that we want to make. And there's parts of our story versus parts of our identity. And she wrote a really beautiful part of, this is my identity, and you're not going to put it on me. And you're overlooking who I am. And I think that that's what we're going to see rise up here in Alaska, because that's who we are. We are a diverse and inclusive group of people.
I love that, but your children obviously being raised right. On my Twitter profile, it says, I live by MLK's dream. I do. I think that Martin Luther King Jr. would be very, very upset by what he's seeing, by what we're seeing in this country. The push to resegregate, the push to bring Jim Crow back, the push to do all of that is still being done by the left, and it's been done by the left for all of history. We can go through it about the segregation. It's about the KKK, about, Planned Parenthood. They're all far left-wing ideologies that were meant to either hold down, oppress, or kill black people in America. And those things have been forgotten. CRT does the exact opposite of what we should be doing in this country. I've got to ask you a last question about Lisa Murkowski, because I want to wrap my brain around it. I'm a logical guy. Hopefully you get that from me when we speak. I don't understand why she's doing what she's doing. Is it in your heart of hearts, Kelly, is she doing what she's doing just to get along with the elites, with the monarchs, with the tyrants in Washington? She clearly has turned her back on what your state needs, wants, and should have, and she's only looking out for number one. But why do that? Is it really only about getting along and being in the group?
I think there are a couple reasons. If you look at her voting record, she's changed over time. So she's not that accountable to us here in Alaska. When she was asked about me, she says she has a pulse. I think she thinks Alaskans have pulses. I don't think she much cares about us.
Right.
I think that she really enjoys being popular with the DC crowd, which, the New York Times says, well, they're the sophisticated bunch, the people who get to go to Barack Obama's birthday party without masks.
Right.
The rest of us have to mask up. Also, Joe, her seat is funded by people who like the way she votes. So if you look at her financial disclosure reports, she's funded by environmental radicalists. That's not in alignment with Alaska's interests, but it's helping her keep her Senate seat. And here in Alaska, we only have about 500,000 grown-ups who can actually fund a Senate seat. So her money has to come from somewhere. And that's how she's been able to stay in power for so long until now. And so now we have a whole lot of people like your viewers who are helping us take back our Senate seat. But she's surrounded by people who are funding her, who are helping her vote these ways. And she doesn't really need to worry about us people with pulses with small pocketbooks who are casting votes that can't help ourselves, but, not be able to get our Senate seat back. So I think there are several reasons that she's been voting these ways.
Kelly, FORAK.com. Kelly is with a Y. People should go there to support your candidacy. How is the fundraising going for you? Last quick one. Are you doing great? Are you good? Is the bank filled? And did Trump's endorsement help to make that happen?
Trump's endorsement has helped. Lisa has a war chest. She and her dad have had that Senate seat for 40 years, and they're funded by the DC insiders. So we need more help. Please help us, America. That said, we are out fundraising her in the state of Alaska 4-1. That shows us that Alaska is with us and behind us. And to date, it's only been a couple months, we have outraised all of the people who ran against her in 2016. So that shows that we have a ton of momentum with us and for us. I'm really confident we're going to win this race. We just need to be able to fund it so that I can travel to all those rural places in Alaska and meet Alaskans. Keep in mind, we're over twice the size of Texas, and we only have 6,000 miles of roads. So it's a lot of travel.
And Texas is big. I should know I'm sitting in Texas. Kelly, I appreciate you. I'm pulling for you. I hope that your candidacy turns into a Senate seat, and then we can finally have somebody who is reliable as a libertarian / conservative / Constitution-loving American back in that seat, that the people of Alaska can say, you know what, we did the right thing here. I wish nothing but the best. Let's do this more often, can we?
Thank you, Joe. I'd love that.
All right. I appreciate you. We're back after this. Stay right here.